What if the MOU between the U.S. and Iran was a trap, an Iran trap? What if Trump had planned this all along? There are some signs that may indicate that's true. I mean, suddenly there is this talk that, hey, you can't trust them anymore. But if you go back and look at how this is proceeded from early on, we saw the cracks, we saw the fissures in the Iranian regime. We saw that there were some, they're all hardliners, but there are different degrees of hardliners. We saw that some were actually uh, trying to negotiate, maybe, possibly, but their theory of negotiation was to kick the can down the road, buy themselves time where they could do other things. And the ultra hardliners didn't want any part of it. In fact, they were trying to attack Garibaldi, the head of the Iranian parliament, and they were after all the negotiators within the regime. But it just so happens that we already saw these fissures forming. And maybe this MOU was in part to drive a crack between those that would want to have a little bit more time and have the guys of negotiation and those that wanted no part of it. Maybe that's what was really going down. But furthermore, what it really was, Pyramid 7, good to see you. What it really was a chance to reload, to resource, to restock, because this brought a little reprieve for the economies of the world. It brought a little reprieve for the oil. And maybe that's why the MOU sounded like such a sweetheart deal, was to lure the Iranians in, perhaps with the full knowledge that they would never negotiate in full faith. And I always said they would never do that, and that they would always return to what they were doing. And now Donald Trump is actually finally saying that. He says the MOU is dead. Well, is it dead? So what happened? What we know is that, of course, Iran, fired at tankers and other ships that were trying to take the so-called southern route, the safer route, which was deemed to be safer, closer to Oman, through the Strait of Hormuz, instead of the one that was closest and more easily controlled by Iran through them. They tried to put mines in that water to keep ships out of that path. So what happened is that Iran fired, and they've done this repeatedly, and Trump would go in and hit them a few times and, tell them to behave themselves, and they just couldn't help themselves. They had to do it again and again. Now, sitting here in the United States, far distant from that, it just sounds, okay, they're firing on ships. But, what they're really doing is they were firing on the bridges of crewed ships, civilian ships, and were lucky. They could have killed crew members of those ships. I mean, they're firing drones right at the bridges of these ships. That, is basically an intent to kill. That is not good any way you slice it. I mean, Iran really is a mafia regime when you really look at it. Now, Iran was trying to negotiate a deal with Oman, and with the hopes, hey, look, Oman, if we work together, we can split this and we can charge tolls once the United States backs down and backs off. But what happened? Oman, because, ships were getting fired at in their waters, has decided, nope, we're not going to deal with it. They actually negotiated and was, looked like they were about to make a deal, but Oman said no. They've backed off. They're out of it. So a lot of stuff's happening in regards to that war. A lot of things in that theater. As you well know, Trump has just unleashed holy fury upon Iran. And in some cases, we're hitting them as hard, as said, even harder than we hit them in the original war. Now, if you go back, what you will find is that during this so-called peace arrangement, we were sending a lot of munitions over there. We were restocking. We were building up our forces. And it was compared to the buildup that preceded the 2003 Iraq War, the so-called Second Gulf War. we were really, really sending a lot of men and materials over. Now, not so much in the terms of ground invasion forces, but there are some. There are more Marine expeditionary units. There are airborne troops there. So Trump wants to take a few islands, maybe a Boom, Maz, whatever we call that one, especially Karg Island. He's talked about Karg Island a lot. So there is possibilities that some of these islands may be taken. They bombed both of these islands in the Strait of Hormuz. And well, Karg Island is not in the Strait of Hormuz. It's more at the head, up at the top of the Persian Gulf area, closer to, it's an oil terminal. It's closer to where Iran can get their oil to the island, because they don't have really good deep water channels immediately anywhere near their oil facilities. So that's why they use Karg Island. So that makes Karg Island somewhat vulnerable in that regard. So what's happened is that we were building up a massive buildup. And a lot of people were starting to point to that. But Iran thought, well, Trump wants this deal so bad. He wants this deal. They really misread him. And he actually communicated that. He acted like that. Maybe he did that on purpose. He also gave the warnings, but he acted like he really, really wanted the deal so bad. And the whole thing might have been just to lure them in to a trap, because Iran never would have been peaceful. And what this did to the world is it showed Iran for what they are, who they are. Something that I've been pointing out for some time. All you got to do is look at their constitution, look at their faith, and you got to understand the key tenet of their faith is to export their 12-hour revolution worldwide. And that's why they have held on to that uranium, the highly enriched uranium, at all costs, even though they've got pummeled hard. Most nations would have gave that up, taking the beating that Iran got, but Iran wouldn't do it. Iran has no intention of it doing it willingly, not at all. They might act like it, they might feign it for the purpose of negotiations, but it's not real. It never was. And most people in the West knew that. And I'm sure Donald Trump knew that. A lot of his advisors were saying this, and of course, a lot of the media wags. And, I've been on here saying that myself, because it was pretty obvious just from the way Iran conducted themselves, the way they prosecuted their end of the war, that they really were not doing this in good faith. And they never have. They never negotiated in good faith, because that's just the way they are. That's who they are. That's what they do. So what we've seen is that this has escalated big time. Now, something that Trump had promised during the original war, so he said if they don't, come in line, he was going to attack bridges and things like that, and power facilities. Well, they did. They've hit around the Bushehr nuclear power plant, not the nuke plant itself, but probably transformers and things like that. So there's been power outages in Iran. They've also hit a major railroad bridge. Now, the interesting thing about that railroad bridge they hit is they took out a railroad line that Iran used to ship oil and supplies to and from Russia and China. This was a very vital artery to them. Now, Iran's turned around and says, oh, it's war crimes, it's war crimes. But, the CENTCOM come back and says, hey, you're using this rail line to move your armaments, to move your military forces around. It makes it a military target, and I'm sure they did. So, they're going to war crime where they can, whenever they can. So these are things that I haven't been live. I haven't done a video at all in a month. This is very hard for me to do right now, because I get up really early in the morning now. So it's really tough for me to do this. I just finally had to break down and do it. So there's just so much going on. Good to see a lot of you people in the chat room. So let me kind of continue with the monologue, and then we'll go more into the chat. But folks, this is, I'm not going to be so long tonight, because I really am getting up early in the morning. I'm already tired. So guys, this is what's happening there. So I've said that what we really needed to do is set it up where there could actually, either this regime is pummeled where it's going to take them forever to get back to where they were, or preferably there's a regime change in Iran. Of course, the best way to get a regime change would be to arm the protesters. Now, we do know the Kurds have finally started taking initiative. The Kurds are actually making attacks now. They were planning to do that early on, and apparently Trump told them, no, hold back. And the reason he did this was because Recep Erdogan, the president of Turkey, basically threw up a lot of stink about the Kurds. And basically, he demanded that they not act because he's afraid the Kurds in his own country will rebel. And so what? Of course, no, Turkey's a NATO country, and we just had a big NATO meeting in Turkey, in Ankara, which Trump has just left. And furthermore, they didn't think he'd do anything when he was in Ankara. Well, that's exactly what he did. He actually did the attacks, he authorized them while he was in Ankara. I guess they thought maybe he'd be more of a target there. But, and also it's been said the Israelis have claimed that that Iran has targeted Trump. Now, of course, Israel would say that. Who else I said? Israel, of course, would say that because Israel wants to get Trump attacking Iran as much as possible. They always did, and they've offered to join the fray, which Trump had not extended that to them yet. Is that he might, he probably will. So a lot of stuff happening. Hey, Chris. A lot of things are going down fast. So he's hit them hard this time. They've even hit some barracks. But apparently there's only been 15 lives lost in this set of attacks. I think they've taken out over 170 targets this time around. But this time the targets are more critical to the Iranian system, to their economy. Of course, they started out as usual, taking out radar centers, air defense, command and control centers, drone factories and launch points, places where they launch missiles from. Of course, Iran did respond somewhat with a missile attack on all the Arabic countries, but not as big as in the past. And that really says a lot. Iran is maybe got less launchers, maybe got less to launch with, maybe they don't want to show their hand because every time they attack, they get hit for the attack from. Because you can always tell where, at least where the missiles come from. Not so much. It's not as easy to tell with the drones, but you can. But the missiles, especially, we know where they come from when they launch them. So we immediately zero in and attack those sites, and their launchers are probably getting to be somewhat fewer and far between than what they used to be. It's still said they got a lot of missiles, but how many do they have? Are they holding back in reserve to just so they don't lose all that they got? Is that why their attacks are less than what they are? And the United States is doing something else. The United States is distributing their forces now. They are trying to not have everything in one place and one big target like they did. They're dispersing things around. Some of the forces are actually in Jordan, maybe some in Israel, but they are kind of spreading things out so that the Iranians don't have such a target-rich environment. Also, we're doing another reason to do that is we're pulling some of our stuff away from the Gulf. And the reason we're pulling some things a little bit further away from the Gulf is so we have more warning time when the drones come in. We can see them coming from farther, which gives us a better chance to intercept them. We can intercept a lot of these drones with our Apache helicopters, with their jet fighters, F-35s, the F-18s, we have aircraft in there that can actually do a lot of drone intercepts. We got some drone interceptors from, of all places, Ukraine. So these are all things. No one wants this war. Well, we were going to get the war whether we wanted it or not. What I put out here in the past is that Iran has been planning and instigating, fomenting for this war. It's in their constitution. It's in their faith. It's their religion. They were going to do this war. The question is, do we fight it on our terms or their terms? The longer we wait, the more missiles and drones they built. So it was going to come. It was inevitable, sooner or later. Nobody wants to war, I agree, but it was inevitable. Sometimes when you've got an opponent who eventually plans to attack you in some fashion, sometimes it's better to strike them first. So that's just something to take into account. But we really didn't strike first. They did on October 7th of 2023. That was, what Hezbollah does, what Hamas does is really part of the IRGC, the Quds forces. It's not really separate. A lot of people think of it as separate. No, Iran is very steadfast on defending Hezbollah, for example, right now. And that's why they tried to get agreements that that Israel wouldn't attack Hezbollah, since they would say Lebanon. Well, Lebanon wants to attack Hezbollah too, because Hezbollah operates as an independent military force within their country, and it doesn't serve the interest of Lebanon. So get her done. Hey, Eddie, how you doing? That's what I'm saying. Get her done. This is something, like I said, it was going to happen. The question is, whose terms was it going to be on? The longer it lasted, the longer it waited, the worse it was going to be for us. We've almost really and truly waited too long, because Iran has so many missiles, has so many drones. But, it was really thought at first taking out their leadership might have taken them down and led to regime change, but that didn't happen, because the RGC still really holds their faith dear and tight, and they still hold a stranglehold on the country. 80% of the people in Iran do not want the mullah regime running their country, but they are forced into it. If you live, it's one thing to desire authoritarian leaning type systems when you're in a free country, but try being free in an authoritarian country. It's a way different matter. Let's see, Arnold as well. Isn't it obvious that someone out there who wants the conflict to continue? I don't think it'll be a Vietnam 2.0. I don't think so. I don't think Trump wants it to last very long either, because he's always, said he didn't want a long, tied-in war. But Iran really is limited to options on this. If we take Carg Island, I said if. I don't know that we'll do it. We might just bomb the snot out of it, because once your forces are there on the island, we could take the island. We could take Abu Masa, I believe it's the island I was trying to say earlier, name of. We got the Marine Expeditionary Forces. We've got the airborne troops near. We might even take Casem Island. The one that looks like a big fish, that big, heavily fortified island. There's a few places we might get, even with the forces we got there, take a little bit of the coastline. Of course, our forces there would be highly targeted. We might send a special operations unit in to take the highly enriched uranium. That would be a very extremely high risk operation. Is Trump going to authorize that? He probably don't know himself yet if he would authorize that. He'd have to see the conditions line up and look right to make it have a prospect for success that's fraught with peril to do something like that. Iran's not a country that you actually want to invade. We haven't put those kind of forces there. We haven't put true invasion type forces in. What we've got, again, is basically special forces. And what the heck happened to my computer here? Oh, the computer was going to come in here and watch this on, just shut down on me. What the heck's it doing? Anyway, so we're that's not one. We're going to do the backup watch on this computer, and I guess because I didn't toggle her mess with it, she just started shutting down on me. That's odd. Anyway, well, why am I back? Because I'm insane tonight. I probably won't sleep. I'm getting up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, my time every morning, and it's really hard on me. I'm spending 3 or 4 hours every day in the garden, in addition to working 9 hours a day in my day job. So I'm struggling, guys. It's really tough for me to do a video, extremely tough. So that's why you're not seeing me. There's been plenty I wanted to do. I have almost every night strove to try to do a video. I really want to do one on the 4th of July, but I just had a lot of things that got in my way. I had a lot of errands to run, things to take care of. And then so I said, I'm going to do one on the 5th. Then somebody called me. A phone call will knock me out of doing a video. I don't care what. If it's even a 30-minute call, I think it's in the last 45 minutes. I said, I got to get a phone, because I still thought I was going to do a video, but it just got time I could get things lined up. I didn't have any gas left, guys. I just couldn't do it. So that's where I'm at. It gets tough. My life is really tight right now, and it's just extremely hard to do a YouTube video at all. I got plenty of material to cover. It's just the time to put it all together and sit down and do this is kicking me hard right now. So I'm just bringing this to you guys right now so you'll know what's cooking. So just so you can get a little different perspective than what you're going to get over the news media and social media, all the wags out there, blah, 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 and all the liberals. Oh, we lost the war in Iran. It ain't over yet. Now, how it actually is going to come out, we don't know. Again, what I'm telling you guys, thank you, Eddie. What I'm telling you guys is that I think the true objective should be regime change. And we would hope that the protesters that protested back in January can rise up, but they're not in a position to just yet because, well, they're not armed, and two, the IRGC is still very strong, but there's a lot of internal fracturing going on inside of Iran. And this attack is probably going to drive that fracturing farther. The MOU really drove the fracturing really hard. So I'm saying maybe this is a trap for Iran because it kind of it exposed a lot of cracks in their system. And Iran is having a lot of internal turmoil at this moment, which is good for the United States and it's good for the protesters if they should find themselves able to rise up. Maybe the Kurds who kept the arms we gave them to give to the protesters well, they use those in some of their attacks, and maybe they will actually take some to the protesters. So we'll have to see how all that plays out. I was wondering where you were, Greg. I just meant I'm extremely busy right now. I do have a day job, and the day job is very demanding. Hey, we got a super chat. Thank you, Rick. First super chat I've had in a month. And even from North Idaho, Rick. It's been a while. My son's birthday tomorrow. He'll be 18. Well, happy birthday to your son, Rick. All right. Good to see you. Thank you for that. So yeah, that's yeah. I don't get anything from the ads on YouTube anymore. YouTube just don't. Yeah, they're stumping me hard. So I think last month, even when I was doing the videos, I might have got a total, including super chats. I think it was about $100. And I did so, a month ago, I did some videos and got some super chats. It just, YouTube won't even pay if you don't get across the $100 threshold. So that helps. War is war. It's war and war is war. Exactly, New. No war is pretty. No war is good. But sometimes wars are unavoidable. We got another one. Thank you, Chris. Coffee on me. Appreciate it. Very much appreciate it. So that's the whole thing, is that they were intending to attack. Now, we're also taking some of our forces out of NATO, out of Europe. And, the NATO Europeans are crying. I mean, they're just crying about it. But, they're all mad. But good grief, we're not really taking that many out. We're just repositioning things to the Pacific because we know that our hands may be full dealing with China. Now, I would say that the best way to deal with China is just cut them off like we've done with the Strait of Hormuz at the Strait of the Malacca Strait there with Indonesia. And the United States has just cut a treaty with Indonesia to do just that. So that's the best way to deal with China. And also, China now has lost this railroad out of Iran. They weren't getting much to it; they were getting some. So, and Russia has been sending a lot of stuff to China. Is probably they're stretching. You got to realize Russia is buying gas from India now. It always went the other way. Drone warfare has changed warfare completely. So let's change topics a little. Let's talk about Russia for a minute. What's going on there? The drone warfare has been a huge game changer, unbelievable game changer. It's upset everything we ever thought and knew about war, especially wars of attrition. Going in, we would have thought, well, Russia would win in the long run. And that seemed inevitable. But what's happened is that the Ukrainians, I'm not taking sides here, I'm just telling you what it is. The Ukrainians have built up their drone capabilities continuously, so much so that they're now 90% of the fatalities on the Russian side are coming from Ukrainian drones. They have two kinds of drones. They got the battlefield drones and they got the strategic long-range drones. They focus first on the battlefield drones. And now they got a huge stockpile of them. Here's like millions. They've got enough and they're still making them. But what they've done is they started building more and more of these long-range drones. In the last year alone, they built 8 times more than they had before. 8 times. And their production capacity is going up, up, and up. So they're going to do another 8 times more next year. Can Russia sustain that? Russia's oil refineries have been rocked. So much so that they're having energy shortages in Russia, one of the world's big energy suppliers. They're no longer a supplier. They're a consumer. They're buying, which hits their economy. It's their war machine finance. So Russia is suddenly on the ropes somewhat, and that's kind of dangerous. The bear's on the ropes. The bear's in a corner. A cornered bear could get more dangerous. Conventionally, they're not doing well. But conventionally, they are, like I said, on the ropes. And Putin, there are people in Russia that would probably like to take Putin out. There's a possibility of a coup. There's talks of some of the military units rebelling because they don't like being run through the meat grinder. Russia's had a really bad way of fighting a war. It's just throwing people at it, more and more people, a meat grinder approach. They've always fought that way. It's not a brilliant way to fight, but they've always been able to do it in the past because they've had the manpower to do it. Well, that strategy is costing them now because they can't replenish the forces that they're needing. And Chechnya is getting a little restless, and a few of the other so-called republics in Russia may follow suit. Russia's not doing well with the relations with Armenia and some the Caucasus area. So Russia is suddenly perhaps losing territory. China, so supposing to take care of Russia and help them win this war, because when the war started, Americans pulled out of the Russian oil fields. We really are the ones. Americans are the ones that were building and operating all this stuff. The Russians don't have a lot of that knowledge. So China went in and started running all these oil fields, especially in Siberia. But what's happened is there's a lot of communities in China now, and Chinese communities in Siberia where they are Chinese. I mean, they're trading in the yuan. Cities are not even using a ruble. And so Russia realizes they're on the cusp of maybe losing portions of Siberia to China. So I always said that China was really Russia's biggest threat, and Russia made a deal with the dragon in order to deal with the Ukraine war, but it's backfiring. And Russia don't want to admit it. Hey, we got another super chat. Thank you very much there. How you say it, line you sent? So, hey, appreciate that very much. Thank you. So this is what's happening, my friends. But here's the thing. People in Russia, and there's no longer just the usual voices we've been hearing. A lot of people in Russia are now calling for tactical nukes to be used. The calls for that are getting pretty loud inside Russia right now. So here's the dilemma with the tactical nukes. If tactical nukes are used, for one, it's not all beneficial. Yeah, it could have some big disruptive effects, but it's not all beneficial to Russia in that the troops really can't move through the radioactive areas. Russia's downwind to a lot of that, so a lot of that radiation will come back on Russia. So there's a lot of disadvantages, not to mention that it would probably pull NATO into the war. That's what a lot of NATO people are saying. And then there would be the expectation that maybe the U.S. would have to use our tactical nukes there in retaliation to the tactical nukes that Russia's using. Some people say, well, why is that? Why is that? Well, a couple of things about that. One, we used to have a very extensive tactical nuke force in Europe. We don't anymore. We just have a few gravity bombs, few tactical gravity bombs, nowhere near the tactical nukes that Russia has today. That's one of the reasons we pulled out of some of the treaties, is that Russia was really breaking them. but Russia has a lot of tactical nukes in the area. We've got just a few, I don't know, a couple of hundred, maybe gravity bombs. That sounds like it might be a lot, but they're aircraft delivered. Russians can launch missiles. So whether we would use them or not is a big open question. I'm not saying we would. I'm not Canadian prepper. Nuclear war starts tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. But it could escalate to that, and that's the danger, because what is thought is that if Russia uses tactical nukes and we don't respond in kind in some fashion, now, we could respond in kind conventionally, yes, but it's thought that would be an invitation to China to take Taiwan with tactical nukes, and also for North Korea to take South Korea and Japan. So it's thought that Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea would all be an imminent risk. This is what a lot of the policy people are claiming. I'm not saying that's absolute truth, but that's what is being floated around out there in the media, is that this would, if we don't respond in kind, our allies in the Pacific would be at grave risk. And it might even include Australia, from some sources. So, guys, I don't know. Let's hope it don't go there, because if we respond with tactical nukes, then you got the specter of escalation. And that is somewhere that would be not a good place to go. I would not be in favor of it myself. Even, if Russia used them, our conventional forces could still overwhelm them. But Russia has a defense policy that for being overwhelmed by conventional forces from a nuclear nation, that they have the right to use nuclear weapons. You see, it gets complicated. That's their new defense posture that they passed a couple of years ago. And I warned you guys about that. So that gets complicated in a hurry. That's why I said we should have gotten out of NATO a long time ago, in my humble opinion, because I think it's a European problem. Whatever's going on over there should be left. You got to realize there's like 500 million Europeans. And when you count the NATO nations and the European Union, collectively got 500 million people. But we still produce like 10 trillion more in economy from our 350 million here in the United States. Why? Because capitalism works. Even though we're paying for most of their defense. So Europe is a failing proposition right now. If they don't wake up, if Europe woke up and shed their socialism and defended themselves, they could have an economy that nobody in the world could approach. They've got the people, they got education, they got a lot of educated people there. They got people that know how to build things, but their economic system isn't favorable to it. All these people over here thinking socialism is the dream of the future. No, it's fraught with failure. And even their so-called socialistic countries are really still capitalistic. They just have a higher degree of socialism. So not like what the DSA wants to promote here in the United States, the guys that seem to be taking over the Democrat Party. So you got to watch out from them. So I just want to let you know, this thing in Russia is getting kind of dicey. We know that Ukraine is going to start pouring it on more and more. Maybe Putin would decide to negotiate, but negotiation would probably be a death knell to him too, especially if he's deemed to be losing, because a dictator survives by the thread of the projection of strength within his own country. When the dictator no longer projects strength, he usually falls. And most fallen dictators meet their physical demise on earth. They have a rapid trip to the garden where they wind up pushing daisies, usually. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be careful what I say on here. So, or it's always go to a low dark. Anyway, so I'm just painting a picture for what is cooking over there. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. I'm not sitting here and saying, well, World War III is 8 a.m. in the morning. But, I think we need to get out of the theater myself, because Europe should be able to take care of themselves. And given the way Russia's crumbling right now, I don't think they propose a great threat. There's talks of, well, Russia's going to invade the Baltics, Russia's going to invade or hit Poland. How can they? They might kind of like some kind of little attack, but now if they use nukes, yeah, look out. So I think it's not a foregone conclusion that Putin would go to that level. If he got feeling desperate, he might. If he really thinks he's going to lose, he might. So these are all things to take into account. I did have a bunch of articles pulled up. I'm not going to go through them. It's late. I got to hit the hay here in a little bit. But I'm just letting you guys know that there are real risks out there. China is still our biggest credible threat. But this whole thing with China actually was using Iran as a proxy state. China was really hoping that they could, via Iran, control the Strait of Hormuz. They were positioning themselves to be able to shut down the Panama Canal. Through their forces in Cuba and Venezuela, they wanted to be able to shut us off from being able to have access to the Caribbean and the Gulf of America, excuse me. They were trying to really cut us off like we are aiming for the Malacca Strait. However, they've lost a lot of their advantages in these regards. It can be argued that even Iran presently doesn't truly have control of the Strait of Hormuz. So, by the way, as of a couple of days ago, I think we sunk like 100 of those fast boats that Iran was using to go out and attack into the Strait of Hormuz and also to lay mines. So their capabilities are diminished. They're not done for, but their capabilities are greatly diminished. So there he is. So nuclear weapons not good. No, not good. I agree. Even if Russia did use nukes, I think conventional forces that we have could overwhelm them without the use of nukes. But then again, if we needed to, I don't think we should be invading Russia. That's what some of NATO would want to do. I do not agree with that. It might be that we would try to push them out of Donbass, Crimea, but I don't really think that's our job either. Maybe we'd put a no-fly zone over Ukraine. Okay, that might work. We might put them on missile defense if they use nukes, but I really think we need to be out of that theater entirely. We should let Europe take care of it. I've said that from the get-go. This whole thing with Iran, this war really, I knew what the Iranian philosophy was. I knew what their 12-ert religion called for. I knew this is why they built Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, and why they were sending the Hezbollah into South America through Venezuela, and maybe some coming into our border. I knew this is why they were doing that. I understood that. I understood that you don't enrich uranium to 60% just for peaceful purposes. You don't do that. There's no need to have it over 20%. And for nuclear power plants, really nowhere near that's really needed. You might use that for research purposes, but that would be it. 60% is obscene. So it happens that when you see the resolve, when they're getting pummeled in war, that they're so tightly holding on us, that was the really telling thing to me that says, okay, these guys are deadly serious about it. They really, 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 really intended to launch a war upon us. So and they really had the fight. It wasn't something could ever negotiate. I knew you could never trust in negotiations. They always kicked the can down the road and cheated. They always did that and always would. And there's no way around that. That was obvious. But their tenacity spoke volumes. It said everything. The fact that they can't be trusted, the fact that they will keep it, even when they got the biggest sweetheart deal in an MOU you could ever believe, they still couldn't stand it. They still had to strike out. That says a lot about who they are. That really underlines and underscores my worst concerns, my worst fears about them. It removed any doubt I might have had in the past. There was at one time I thought, well, so what if Iran's got nukes? Israel's got them. So what? But now when you've seen how they've tried to metastasize the revolution, what they've tried to pull off, then it becomes pretty darn clear what their real plans and objectives are. And it's not just words on paper. It's not just talk. The death to America, death to Israel. There's always American name first. Israel was always the little Satan. America was always the big Satan. That they had intent behind that, and that intent was deadly serious. So there's, any doubt about that should be removed now. But a lot of people still don't get it. They still don't see it. Yeah, our oil prices went up, but part of what that reprieve, the MOU, brought us was a little bit of a period of respite, a little bit lower prices. My gas prices here went down from 460 a gallon to maybe above to 409. That's what I just paid recently, and it's still that today, even though the conflicts resumed. I suppose it'll go back up some, but it's back down to Biden era prices now. A lot of people forget, oh, we were $2 a gallon, something like that. Well, yeah, but that was because Trump said drill, baby, drill. The Biden area prices were more like what they are. And if we go with the DSA's new Green Deal, they want to eliminate gasoline. They want to eliminate propane. That's part of their platform. So you can expect prices would go astronomical. Then the stuff, wouldn't even be available. That's their dream. So we got to watch what's coming, guys. I know a lot of you guys didn't want to vote in the midterms because you've been disenfranchised by what Trump's done, especially this war. But I say, guys, you better look over at the other side and see what they really are trying to cook up over there. It is absolutely frightening. I plan to do a video on that on my Silverhead News channel soon. I'll go over there and do a video specifically on that. Even with the insane Lego videos, show them nuking the U.S. That's what they really want to do. Yeah, and the whole thing is insane. The whole thing is nuts. But, you can't accuse religious fanatics of logic. And a lot of people try to ascribe logic to them and think that they will negotiate and work within the confines of logic. That is not their intention. They do not think the same way Westerners think. They do not proceed from the same basis. So how do you negotiate with somebody whose full intention is to eliminate you one way or another at some point in time? Such negotiations are done in peril, great peril. DJT is trying to train a snake to ride a bicycle. Yeah, that's about what it boils down to. That's about what it boils down to. Anyway, so, and we got a lot of Americans that just don't see this. They don't see what it all boils down to. But one thing the news media don't tell you, you're not going to give them the news media. You're not going to give them social media. That's why you're here watching me tonight, because I'm going to give you the skin. But I've been saying this for the past couple of months. The past 2 or 3 months, I've been saying this. I didn't want to see us go into Iran to start with. And that was because I knew we needed to save munitions for China. But this is also part of the chessboard against China and Russia even. So there is that dimension to this whole war. Yeah. I'm going to have to, we're going to have to end this video here in a little bit. So I'm just letting you guys know what all this means. Letting you know that there is still a lot of consternation over there that is not over. But the Iranian regime is cracking within. Now, that doesn't mean they're over. That might change who runs it. And probably right now, the upper hand belongs to the IRGC. We don't even know if the new Ayatollah is even alive. Mushtaba, whatever you call his name, Khamenei. We don't even know if he's actually alive. Nobody's seen him. He may be a Weekend at Bernie scenario, kind of like Joe Biden was in the White House. All these pronouncements he writes, there may be some author in the IRGC doing all that. We don't know. We just don't know what's really cooking there. So what I'm going to do here is hey, also, Guys, I wouldn't want to live if you live anywhere near the San Andreas Fault. If you live in any area in the Northwest that's subject to what might happen if the Cascadia uh, subduction zone lets go, they're talking about a 9.0 earthquake. We've never in our history had a 9.0 earthquake. We're talking about something that could rip from entire St. Andrews to and through the Cascadia subduction zone, one right after the other, maybe very little time between them, or perhaps even almost simultaneously. The tension is in those San Andreas is greater than it's been in 1,000 years. And right now there are some small earthquakes on the San Andreas. So that thing could let go. And when it does, I would not want to be anywhere near Los Angeles because those big highways are going to collapse. You're not going to be able to get in and out of that city unless you're going up in and out by air, but they'll probably lose power. Will the airport be able to operate? Some of the docks might still be operational, but access in and out, getting food in and out, supplies in and out is going to be horrendous. You got tens, you got, not quite 20 million, pretty close to that number of people living in that basin where Los Angeles is at. It will be ugly. And all the people up and down the entire West Coast are going to have a very extreme bad catastrophe. We're talking tsunamis. And of course, a tsunami like that would also hit Japan and other places because Japan, last time the Cascadia subduction zone went, they had a major tsunami in Japan. There was a marker put above Fukushima, says do not settle or do anything below where this marker is at. And they ignored it in Japan and put the Fukushima power plant below that. Well, even the earthquake that took that out, produced a major tsunami. It was not as high as the one that hit them, around the year 1700. Because that marker, the water didn't go up to that marker. That water has been there, and it came from the earthquake in the Cascadia subduction zone. That was a crazy tsunami. Anybody and everybody in the Pacific would be at risk if this Cascadia subduction zone go up. This is a word of the wise. A lot of you people, I got people around the world. This is just a warning to you guys that you better be on your awares like never before. And if you live west of what's the one that goes up and down the west coast? I want to say I-10. I think no, I-10 is the southern one. So it's I-5, I believe. I-10, yeah, I-10 goes through Houston and all that. The west coast interstate, I believe, is I-5. If you live west of that, you're in a very bad place. But Mount Rainier has also been making a lot of racket, and this could set Mount Rainier off. And if it don't, the subduction will just put more material under Mount Rainier to cook and heat. So Seattle would be in a real pickle. So if you live in Seattle or Los Angeles, I would say, you don't want to be there. I would highly advise you guys to if any of you guys are in those areas, I advise you to start thinking about getting out, finding a way out of that place, because it's going to turn ugly. And it's amazing how many people just ignore that. It's the normalcy bias. Well, it ain't happened in my lifetime. It ain't going to happen. Everything will be okay. Well, normalcy bias can bite you in the rear end really hard. So it's just doing I-5, yes. So you don't want to be there. Yeah, that's right, Wizard. I just had to think a minute. So I didn't come up with it. I just had to think a minute. So you don't want to be there. You do not want to be in those areas. Odd numbers, north, south, even east, west. Yes. So you do not want to be anywhere near that place. And I'm just warning you guys about that. So, we have actually an odd number running east, west, and north Alabama, I-565. So that kind of throws me off. I have to think about it sometimes. But as much as I run I-40, though, and I run I-10 over the better. I run interstates a lot. So, and I-65. So, guys, really pay attention more than ever because if that goes off, it's going to be catastrophic. And it will really shut out a lot of trade, especially if you think about all these ports around the Pacific that will be damaged. International trade will be pretty much done in. All the ports on the West Coast, that all that stuff we buy from China will suddenly be probably not serviceable. There's good reason to have tariffs to get us to more focused on producing stuff here at home, which we should have been doing all along. So Cascadia Falls is a thing. Yep. So guys, if you got friends or family, I assume most of you guys don't live there, but if you have friends and family in the area, you might start trying to nudge them and remind them and getting them to think, hey, you probably don't want to be there. That's hard for somebody to just pick up and leave their jobs and lives and everything they got in a location. I get that, but it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. And this is one of the reasons y'all need to prepare. I urge y'all buy brass and beans. Exactly, Eddie, you jumped ahead of me. This is why you've got to prepare. You better get things in order. If there's things you need, get it now. There may be some disruptions in food supply. I hear some of the harvests are coming along a little faster than usual this year for soybeans and corn and things like that, but I don't know the volume of those harvests. If you look at the NASA, or however he says it, well, Page, he'll tell you that we're going to be out of food, and a lot of these others do. Now, I think he overhypes it a little bit, but I think that's more of a problem in poorer countries. And this whole thing with the new El Nino. We're coming into a Godzilla El Nino. And they said the last time we had one like this in 1877, 50 million people starved. Of course, the world population was a lot smaller then. What you need to understand is those are people mainly in India and China. Now, it could be worse this time, but we do have global trade that might offset some of that. But the whole thing is, see, when the warmth comes on our side of the Pacific, they get less rain over there, we get more here. I think for our farmers, it might be a good thing. Here in Arizona, we're hoping this is going to bring us some much needed rain and help break this mega drought we're in. I got a pond that had water in it in late fall and all through the winter, but when planting season come around, it was bone dry, and it's still bone dry. Some of y'all might have seen pictures of me out at my pond. It had a lot of water in it, but it evaporated, and I've not had any rain to speak of. Oh yeah, I got 6 inches of rain a couple of days ago. One raindrop, two raindrop, every raindrop 6 inches apart. That's what we call 6 inches of rain out here, is you get all your raindrops 6 inches apart. It's been, it's still dust. I mean, yeah, you might get a little bit of a sprinkle every once in a blue moon, but you walk outside and kick the ground, it's still dust. It's not enough to make a difference. Not enough to pull, not enough to run off, not enough to water anything. It's been rough. The largest earthquake was, and yes, the New Madrid. We're talking about an earthquake that would be almost 10 times worse than that. A 9.0. That was what, an 8.2, I think. We're talking about a far more powerful earthquake than the New Madrid. Who knows? It might set the New Madrid off and just shaking the continent so hard. There's also another fault zone that runs kind of parallel in California through LA. How do you pronounce that? Wanginto or something like that fault. It's also overstressed and will probably go off when the San Andreas goes off. So we're talking a lot of shaking. And we're not talking about bacon. I like it when it sleets in the desert. Yes, in August. Well, I had 7.5 inches of snow here on the 19th of April of last year, not this year. This year has been bone dry. So I got a rainwater collection. I see all these YouTubers. Now, some areas in Arizona, they have got some rain east of me. There's been more rain east of me. There's rain south of me. I see a lot of the YouTubers. Oh yeah, you can do everything with rainwater. Rainwater. You ain't got to worry about it. You can collect all the water you need rainwater. In some places that might work, but it don't work here. If you were totally relying on rainwater, you'd be up a creek without a paddle here, or without anything to float your boat either. So it's been bone dry. I've got a rainwater collection tank back here behind my house. And for the surface area of my house and the average rainfall of snowflake, I should have filled that thing twice over since I put it in. It should have filled up and I should have had to pump it out and use that water somewhere else. Guess what? It didn't get about 500 gallons in it. So it's a 1,500 gallon tank. I should have had over 2,000. I should have had 1,800 gallons of water. What I get? 500. What's that mean? I probably got about 4 inches of rain here for the whole year. 4 inches. That's extreme desert right here where I'm at. Now, so I'm seeing a lot of these other channels on here talking, oh, rainwater, there's them rainwater, even here in Arizona. And it depends on where you're at. And it depends on your luck. So if you're banking on it, you might be in a bad spot. I plan to do a video on that topic. Boy Scouts had us to still, yeah. Personally, I only need 100 gallons, 300 gallons, 300 or 400 gallons will do me all year, but it won't grow my garden. It won't water my chickens, especially my garden. I'm using a lot of water. Now I'm using about 209 gallons a week, but I've got a very large garden. My garden, I got about over 3 times more garden than I had last year. So last year I was using 100 gallons. So I got 3 times as much. I'm only using, if I did it, if it was like last year, I'd be using 300 gallons. I've got more efficient beds. But those beds still haven't got tuned in properly yet either, because the wood's got to decay. Prepping isn't for sissies. No, it's not, Eddie. Eddie knows. Eddie's out here. It's not for sissies, but I'm good with it. I like it. I'm not complaining. I'm just telling you what you got to deal with. Now, what I do plan to do is build some, if I can get the time and money, build some enormous rainwater collection areas. I mean, enormous. Based on the idea of having 4 to 5 inches a year to fill up and give me about 20,000 gallons of water. That is a big, that means I'm going to have some really big collection areas and a lot of tanks to get it. And I'm planning to put them in ground. I'm planning to build some cisterns. And I plan to cover them so it don't evaporate like my pond did. It don't do any good if you get a pond filled up. Now, see, that pond was fed by a huge collection area. That's why it filled up. But it don't do you any good if all the water's gone before planting season comes. And around here, in some areas in Arizona, when the monsoon season starts, they start getting rain. Last year, I didn't get any rain until after the frost. What good does that do you for growing a garden if you don't get no rain until after the frost hits? So yeah, then I got rain, and that's when the pond filled up. But but it was dried up before planting season came back around. So that don't do much good. Yeah, monsoon around here is 6 inches of rain. One raindrop, every raindrop 6 inches apart. That's a monsoon here in Arizona. Now, sunspots have been affecting the fault lines. Well, yeah, we got one big single sunspot facing us right now. So, but it's just got so much pressure. It's got so much pressure on it. It's going to go. It's going to go. You weren't hoping it. You were hoping it didn't flood. Yeah, last year it was because my pond didn't have the proper drainage. I got that fixed. So I don't care right now. If I got a flood, I'd be happy. When I came out here in 2023, there was actually some pretty good rain. We had that Hurricane Hillary hit, and even before the Hurricane Hillary hit, there'd been moisture. That year was pretty moist. I had a lot of flowers blooming. My van was covered from top to bottom with mud. I said, man, this desert sure is wet. But that was a fluke. So hopefully that was something, I think it was small El Nino. I hope this time we get something like that again and the rains come sooner. I'm really hoping this El Nino gives us some rain. Evaporation rate in my pool is thousands of gallons some days. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that at all. You know, that pond had a lot of water in it, a lot. It was holding it too. You know, the first time it got water in it, it silted through. But after a couple of fill-ins and siltings, it held the water. And I was told it probably would, that the silt would settle in because there's a lot of clay in the soil here. I got layers of pure clay on my property. I mean, thick layers of pure clay. Maybe I should go in the pottery business. So there's red clay kind of mixed in with stuff, but this is gray clay. It's not the stuff you buy in stores to make pottery with. It is pure. Thank y'all. Everybody do pray for some rain. I need it extremely bad because it's a fire hazard. All these juniper trees are so dry and they're struggling for life. They really are. My junipers are dying. They need some rain real bad. So I've already been on here too long. I need to go. Oh, by here, great. Long time I have seen a live stream from you. I haven't been on in a month. Lake Mead and Powell is, yeah, they're down at critical. I hope this monsoon will help alleviate that. But they're talking, well, maybe we'll get 20 to 30% more rain than normal. I hope it's a lot more than that. 20 to 30% is not going to help out Powell or Lake Mead. But I'm not dependent on Lake Powell or Lake Mead. I do have water hauled in here, but it comes from the Coconino Aquifer. But it's not cheap. 10 cents a gallon don't sound too bad. But when you're watering 209 gallons a week, it gets bad. I mean, I can't really sell a produce in my garden to pay for that. That's where I really plan. I hope that my job lasts long. Now, my contract that I'm working on ends on the 30th of August. I may be totally out of work then, unless the company don't want subcontractors doing kind of work done. However, I got to tell you guys something. Over the past couple of weeks, I devised the means to land the lander for my company on the moon and reduce a lot of risk that was associated with landing a heavy lander. I'm not talking about SpaceX. I don't think they can do it. But I wrote a white paper on it, and it's starting to percolate toward management. I hope they seize the opportunity because I've come up with an approach that will really buy down a lot of the risk for the lunar landing for a heavy lander. But they're trying to cut back on safety. So I don't even know if my job will last to the 30th because we're supposed to be announcing a reorg tomorrow. And yeah, I don't know how it's going to pan out. So I might be in a big hurt in a hurry. Pyramid 7, it's good to see you on here. I believe Pyramid 7 was my original mod on this channel. Pyramid 7 and Soul's Eye Jules come in. And she used to live not far from him, but she moved off. Soul's Eye Jules was lived in a community where I used to take my generators to get them fixed. But she moved away just before I moved in permanently. So, guys, I'm going to do some real quick. We're not going to look at all the news articles I pulled up. We're going to look at a couple of things here real fast. Ding, ding, ding. Let's hit the share screen. And I'm going to change that. There. Go back over here. Go over here first. Wow, that's big. Got it blown up big time. There we go. Guys, first a word from my sponsor, who is me. I told you guys a long time ago I was going to come up with a way for you guys to get away from supporting the House of Klaus and all the contaminated products you're buying on a daily basis. And as you're well aware, we got 550 different consumer brands over that are controlled by just 12 corporations. And these 12 corporations are all part of what funds the House of Klaus, among other things. They're full of all kind of chemicals and heavy metals, toothpaste. I've done some videos on this. I get a chance, I'll do some more specific on a lot of these contaminants in this stuff. But, we just had our Independence Day. If you want independence, you don't want to be sporting a house Klaus. So I highly encourage you to find a way to switch away from buying so much of this stuff and so much shopping at the big box stores. And I've come up with a way to do it, because what we find is a lot of the ownership of these companies comes through the big three asset management companies, principally being BlackRock. And we know that BlackRock is run by Larry Fink, and Larry Fink runs now the House of Klaus. He took over from Klaus Schlauber, as we all know. So what I've done is I've come up with this webpage, switchwithgreg.com. Switchwithgreg.com. This is my website. It belongs to me. So if you fill out this form, the data will come to me, and I got a helper that brings you guys on board with this opportunity here to switch away from all this mess. And you can see more details about that here. You can go back through some of the other videos. This is an American company, a family-owned company. It's not part of the big corporate conglomeration House of Klaus mess. The non-toxic products, extensively tested for consumer safety. A lot of plant-derived stuff that really works beyond your belief. So, guys, I highly encourage you to check this out. It'll help you, help me, and help maintain freedom in this country. Switchwithgreg.com. So I'm going to switch straight over to earthquakes. I'm not going to show you all these articles like I planned to, because it's so late. I want you to see this. Right along the San Andreas area, well, we got something right here pretty close to Jellystone. Yes, Wyoming, yikes. And our friends in Puerto Rico are dancing hard as usual. We know they like to do it. Look at this, guys. Right along, these are little earthquakes, little ones, but they might be the kind that would be priming things for the release of the big one. Sometimes that's what happens. Things have got to start breaking a little bit before they break big. So these are small, 2.5, 2.5. This one is a 3.5, a little bit bigger. Of course, here at the tip of the Juan de Fuca plate, we got a 2.5 right there. That's a lot of earthquakes right there at that tip. Of course, we got a volcano over here somewhere brewing underneath the ocean. A lot of stuff happening there, my friends. Let's kind of scan out, look at the world a little bit bigger. Japan is rocking, 5.1. Philippines is rocking, 5.0. You got over here in Vanuatu, 5.1. So nothing much over, 5.2, maybe 5.1 is the biggest one we're seeing right now, which is a good thing. Alaska's always got a bunch of earthquakes. I've got a lot of friends on my channel here in Alaska, and I appreciate you guys for being here. Here's that big sunspot I mentioned. Got one looking at us right now. We got a group over here, 4482, but it really needs like a counter sunspot if it's going to throw off a major CME. So we're not really looking for one to hit us right now, but there's a big coronal hole that's putting out some effluent from the sun. Not huge, but it is causing some aurora activity right now. Maybe Arnold, can you see into that auroral activity where you're at? Good question. So look here, it's it. All right, it's daytime in Maine, so new days may be waking up. I've done some warnings about these mini, in my Galactic Greg channel, these mini moons that are going around Earth. Well, China's went to one, and that should really concern us, because that's also a military opportunity for them. So that should really concern us, guys. China's getting ahead of us in some areas that is kind of scary. Now, when it comes to the asteroids, we had a couple of near passes. We had one that came in inside our geosynchronous satellites, but it was only 13 meters in diameter. We had another that came in just outside of that at 17 meters in diameter. So we're safe. They passed. That was July 6th and 7th. There's nothing that we know of that's coming between the Earth and our geostationary satellites, or even between the Earth and the moon. But these smaller ones always sneak up on us. We see them right when they're either just about to come at us, or right after they passed. So, but these would have burned up in the atmosphere. They would not, unless they were pure iron, nickel iron, they would not have struck the ground. So that's the good news about those. So I'm going to forego all these articles tonight because it's really late and I got to get up in a little bit. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go through some of the chat real fast. I may not be able to read it all. So I probably won't be able to read it all because I got to go. I will just try to pick up a few comments. Hi, Greg's want to drop in. Says Tiffany Harmon, good to see you. Smash the thumbs up. Yeah, guys, I do need some thumbs up. Where are we at on our thumbs up count? We got something I really need. Help me out with the algors that have no rhythm, because YouTube's always trying to smash this channel. So let's help me resist the YouTube shadow banning. We got 65 in the room. That's not too bad. We got 60 thumbs up. We'll probably have 300 or 400 people watching this video already if we got 65 in the room. So that means a lot of people didn't give me a thumbs up, and everybody in the room right now hasn't gave me a thumbs up. So we got at least 5 of you. If you give me a thumbs up, if you would, I'd appreciate that. I don't trust any of it. Yeah. Particularly Iran there. How you say it? Line Usen. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Pardon me if I didn't pronounce it well. Yeah. R.I.P. Granny, amen, Wolf. The flavors of forest and garlic. Interesting. And wild onions are really, I think, of garlic. Long live logic and liberty. Iran also used to use that spool design drone of Ukraine defenses to negate Israel tyranny. Let's see what script say. Wolf, shield, fox, tyranny. You want to hear about tyranny? I'm in a 40-mile drone war. Wow, corridor testing in Detroit right now. Oh, I wouldn't want to be in Detroit. My gosh, guys. It's got to be a rough place. First time I went to Detroit was back in probably 1989. I was really impressed. All the highways and everything laid out. So I went back a few years later. I mean, less than 10 years later, the whole place like it's falling apart. It was awful. And then it got worse, way worse. Yeah. Let's see here. I'm going to invest in a 12-pack of some popcorn. Yeah, if you live in a place where you can be comfortable, it might be a good thing. Yeah, so yeah, brass and beans. I think Eddie really nailed it. Brass and beans. Not talking shake and bake. Nope, we're not talking shake and bake, Chris. We got Chewy Weather. There's Chewy Weather. How you doing, Chewy? Our friend from West Wokistan is in the house. All right. Good to see that. Oh, cloudy, about to get some rain. Well, send some rain down here. Pamela, let's see, something Venezuela. Pamela A. No, it's Pamela Venezuela. Hey, Greg, I have about 300 gallons of water in 50-gallon drums. Should I trust it? Well, you probably want to filter. You know, those drums, a lot of them have the bung. Is it metal drums or plastic drums? If it's plastic, I hope it's food grade. A lot of them come with those bung hole plugs in them, but the ones I had the bung hole plugs on, they got loose and let a lot of junk in. And some of my water had a lot of trash in it shouldn't have had in it, which blew my mind. I got several of those blue barrels myself, and I got some of them do have water in. You might want to use Teflon tape to seal those. You know, you screw them in and out. That's something I would advise. Use Teflon tape for those. Just doing the summer farming thing. All right, Chewy. That farming must be really problematic there in West Wokistan now. Before we proceed much further, I'm going to check and see if I got any donations in the website. Not tonight. Okay. So, all right, what we're gonna do now is the egg guess. I've now got 15 hens. It's been so hot, they don't like to, usually like to lay a lot, but I'm not gonna give it away. So, all right, guys, how many eggs did I harvest today? How many eggs I harvest today? All right, guys, time for the egg guess. How many eggs I harvest today? Let's see some numbers. We're well guessed 8. Keep guessing. Everybody's guessing 8. Keep guessing. Keep guessing. Keep guessing. Keep guessing. Keep guessing. Nobody got it yet. Whoa, there we go. Arnold Smith got it. 9 eggs. It's the most eggs I've gotten in a long time. Today was my best harvest day in a long time. It was 9. I absolutely got 9 eggs today. So Arnold got it when he said 9. Arnold was right. All right, stop guessing now. When the numbers stop rolling, we will go for the guess on the Easter eggs. Now, y'all got to stop. That's the numbers got to stop rolling first. So, I was out. They stopped rolling. Okay. How many Easter eggs did I get today? How many Easter eggs? Of the 9 eggs, how many of those are Easter eggs? Praise God. But yep, today was a good day for me. In fact, I had like 3 yesterday. Keep guessing. Keep guessing. Keep guessing. 5. Arnold got it again. Arnold got it. 5 Easter eggs. Some of these new hens I got are Easter eggers, and Easter eggers are more prolific. So, although, man, one day they didn't lay any eggs at all, but they tend to be more prolific. So here we are, guys. That egg there has actually got a brown hue to it, so it's not an Easter egg. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Easter eggs. That's a light brown. That's probably for my leghorn hen. It's almost a whitish egg, but it's kind of got a little bit of a brown hue. And there's my dominant eggs up here. So that's what I got today. The best egg harvest I've gotten in months. So, but it's 14 hens now. So hopefully it cools off a little bit. I might get more eggs even. Because it's not super cold. They didn't do too bad in the winter. But I had one day I just got 1 egg. 1 egg. That was just a few days ago. So I've had days where all the eggs were Easter eggs. I've had days. I had one day recently that the Easter eggers didn't lay any. They're usually more prolific now. I'm getting more Easter eggs than not. So seems to be the case. But it's a really kind of a random thing. Really kind of a random thing. All righty, we've covered the news, we covered the Easter eggs. I didn't go through the articles, but I really talked it, so you don't see them. It's late. I got to hit the hay. And it's going to take me a little bit to do that. It's already 1:30 in the morning here. I'll be getting up in about 3.5 hours, and I still got a little bit of stuff to do before I can go to bed. It'll be like an hour from now before I can actually hit the hay. It's been kind of hot in here. It was like 90 degrees about an hour ago, but I opened up all my windows upstairs. Hopefully some of that heat's getting out. It's always hotter up there than it is down here. It was like 90 down here. So it was really hot upstairs. So hopefully it'll be cooled off a little bit now. It's right now downstairs. It's still over 80. It's about 83, 84 degrees in here. Outside, it's not as bad, but it's My little windows are just not letting enough air in. It's about 73 degrees outside. It's only going down to 70 in the night. So it'll probably be 80 in the house when I wake up, even upstairs. Anyway, I just want, yeah, you got yourself a self-paid trip to Lost Wages. Arnold, you got both the guesses tonight. It's your night, Arnold. So it's good to see you again. Guys, it's good to see y'all. I miss seeing y'all like I used to. That's just my life is horrendous right now. And I'm going to pay the price for staying up late tonight. No, I'm not close to Tombstone. You got Venezuela in your name. Have you been to Venezuela? No, that's not Venezuela. Pardon me. Pardon me. It's Pamela Valenzuela. What? Valenzuela. What is Valenzuela, Pamela? Is that your name? It's the place you've been? No, I'm not close to Tombstone. I am not close to Tombstone. I mean, I'm in the same state. It is, I don't know, probably a 4 or 5 hour drive there. I do plan to go. I want to see Tombstone. We've had gunfights up here at Holbrook. Holbrook was a rowdy town for a long time. Let's see, how long a drive is it to Tombstone? 5 hours and 22 minutes from where I'm at. 5 hours and 22 minutes. See, Tombstone is down in the very southern end of the state. I'm in northern Arizona. We call it northern Arizona. It's really almost in the middle of the state, but it's north of the Mongolian Ridge. I'm at a much higher elevation. Here I'm over a mile high. I have to run. Well, Chris, good to see you. I got to run too. Richie Valenzuela. Okay. I don't know who he is, but Kung Fu Grasshopper. Good to see you, Kung Fu Grasshopper. Been a while. Been a while. All right, we got 64 watching right now. That's not too bad. Not too bad. It's good to see everybody here tonight, especially considering how long it's been since I've been on here. Flagstaff is a 2 hour drive from me. Flagstaff is a lot closer. It's a 2 hour drive to Flagstaff, and it's about a 3 hour drive to Grand Canyon. It's Grand Canyon's north of Flagstaff. All righty, folks, we got to go. I got to call it a night. I like to pronounce K's, like Knoxville, Knight. So with that, I'm going to say, I want to thank you, Super Chatters. Thank you, mods. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Share my videos. Hit the thumbs up on the way out, please, if you haven't hit it already. And after I post a video, come back in and chat in the comment sections, because that helps drive user content, helps drive views. We need views. So I want to thank all of you. Thank you all for being here. It's good to see you guys again. Like family to me, and it means a lot to me just to see you guys. And I'm hoping I inspire you guys to prep and get ready for the tough times that may be ahead. You know, those earthquakes that we're talking about will be horrendous, and even if they don't affect you directly, it's going to definitely cut trade big time. And the United States will be bending over backwards and spending a lot of money trying to rebuild a lot of that. So it's going to hit us. There's no way around it. You know, we'll have impact. Not to mention, there could be a lot of refugees coming out of there, though, if they can get out. They want them to initially, the human loss of the people that get trapped in those areas could be horrendous. Horrendous. So, and let's pray for some rain. I need some rain. I'm hoping to get some this time. Anyway, thank you all for being here. And with that, I'm going to say to one and all, a good night, good day, wherever you are. Ho, 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 in honor of Granny Land.